Hello everyone, welcome back to the Captain Logan Show. Hey, it's me, Captain Logan, and joining me as always is my wonderful chat moderator and producer, DJ Martinez. Hello, DJ.
A couple throw pillows, a TV news reporter, and me, a moderator. How's it going? I love that score so much.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. It's very much of its time, but I never get tired of it.
I know, right? So good. Oh, well, how the heck are you, man?
I'm doing good, man. It is great to be back. Tonight we're gonna have a really just regular, boring show. I don't know why anybody's even here. No, it'll be a lot of fun, I'm sure. Tonight we're gonna do an Ask Me Anything show. We're not gonna have any kind of a lead-in topic or anything, and I'm gonna do very, very little prologue. So let me just say before we get started that we're doing a little bit of a contest tonight, and it has nothing to do with super chats, although certainly we'll see your questions and topics more readily if you leave a super chat, and that guarantees that we'll actually answer them. But we'll do some pre-written stuff as well, as we always do. Thanks to everybody for doing that. But tonight is the best question gets a whole show. So whoever tonight has the most interesting and insightful or engaging question, or just a really fun thing that I want to run away with myself for the next 45 minutes to an hour, and don't have time to do that tonight, I'm going to make that an entire show in the not too distant future. It won't be a Captain Logan show. It'll be some other stream in an afternoon or late overnight sometime, where I just sit down and go, this person had a great question, let's really dissect it, really blow it up, and it'll just be me and possibly a co-host, but probably just me, rambling on for a lot longer about that question. So that's what we're doing tonight. So really, put your thinking caps on and make it as fun and interesting as humanly possible. And I don't want to make anybody feel bad or feel sad because we don't end up doing that. But if we don't have one that really grabs my imagination like that, I'm not promising that will definitely happen. But if I see one tonight that I just really love, like I said, best question, there do have to be some contenders. There has to be some like really, really good ones. But with this group, I'm pretty sure this will happen, that there will be one where I'll go, I need a lot longer. There almost always is, which is why I wanted to do that. But I reserve the right not to take any of the questions and run with them. But that is the plan. I'm going to try to take a great question and run with it in another show. So quick house cleaning stuff before we begin. Tomorrow night, our schedule has changed a little bit this week. Tomorrow night, Austin and I and Jason are going to be doing a blind commentary on Godzilla vs. Monster Zero, which is Austin's favorite Godzilla movie, and is one of the only Godzilla movies that Jason has seen, but he loves it and thinks it's wild and crazy and has been trying to get me to watch it for like a year. And Connor showed it to Jason when he was here last, and ever since then, Jason's like, you really need to watch this movie. So he finally has gotten me to commit to it. So these guys have seen it before, but it'll be my first time, so you'll get to see my reactions in the moment to Godzilla vs. Monster Zero. That'll be at 10 o'clock Central tomorrow night, starting late as we always do on Friday. Usually we do mini marathons. Tomorrow night we're going to do that. And then Sunday, I'm going to be doing a Off the Beaten Path Superhero Rewind Unscripted, talking about blurbs on the backs of DVD and Blu-ray boxes for superhero movies. Don't worry, it's way more fun than it sounds. I have found some really interesting and weird ones, and we're going to talk a lot about the strategies that the backs of boxes use in merchandising and selling the movies, or do they? Are they even necessary? Does anybody even read them? So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to look at lots and lots of different examples of that, of past, present, and not future, because I don't have a time machine, but past and present and just a few months ago. So that's what we're going to be doing. And then I also want to mention that pretty soon I'm going to be overhauling Patreon a little bit, and that should be beginning the middle of next week. And we're going to have new features based around streaming reviews, and we're gonna create some new panels for selecting the stuff that we review. So Austin and I have our Friday show. We're gonna have a new panel that will let patrons pick what we do off of a list, because Austin and I have this giant list of like 30 different things that we've been talking about doing forever, and we don't know what order we want to do those in, so we're going to let you guys do that. And I'm also bringing back the Rewind selection board on top of individual requests that we do at the $15 tier. And once I finally catch up on the remaining, and there's not as many as I thought there were, but the remaining Rewind requests from quite a while back, quite a while means a couple years, I will finally bring that back, and that'll be at a higher tier. And there might be even one other bigger Patreon perk that I'm going to add, but I haven't decided for sure on that. So anyway, I'm going to get my ducks in a row on that this weekend, and there should be an announcement about that at the beginning of the week. Okay, DJ, I'm going to start taking questions right this very minute. And what do people want to chat about? I can't hear you, DJ.
The first one
now I can.
Saw was from Cinemagraphic.
Yay, Cinemagraphic.
We're gonna do that every time. It's like a graduation every time I say their name.
You know what? My favorite silly graduation thing in a TV show is the cliffhanger with Smallville between 4 and 5, because they kept those kids in high school for 4 whole years, even though they start off looking like they've been out of high school for at least that long. The guy who's reading off all the names at the ceremony, and like, we've never seen this guy in this show before, so like, he's not the principal, he's just, I guess, supposed to be a teacher or something, but he's standing at the podium, and he reads off Clark Kent and Lana Lang's names, and of course, they're right next to each other. There's nobody in between Kent and Lang at that school. And I guess that could happen, but I thought that was kind of amusing. But just the way his line reading is hysterical, because he keeps moving his head whenever he says Lang. He goes, Lana Lang! Lana Lang! And like, she's not there, and he's looking for her, so he's being all like annoyingly peppy, but like kind of panicking because she doesn't show up for her diploma. And he just keeps going, Lana Lang! And cracks me up every time.
Like he's announcing a tennis match.
30 love!
Oh, Cap and DJ, given your penchant for in-depth analysis, how do you distinguish between emotional intelligence and intellectual intelligence when watching movies?
Wow.
First one of the day.
Yeah. Do we have to lead with another Blue Book question, DJ?
I read them as they come, man.
I need a few minutes to noodle a thing like that before I have to start writing in my notebook. Okay, so I think that intellectual and emotional intelligence are, for yourself, very difficult things to pair apart. They're obviously related, and you start getting into kind of a psychoanalysis exercise trying to figure out the difference between them. But there is certainly, to some degree, a difference. I think it's just difficult to always tell what your own personal motivations are. So I always say that I have kind of two different brains when I am watching things and when I'm discussing them. So there's the just primitive animal, as you say, emotional brain that says, I love this, I don't know why. Or I hate this, I don't know why. The intellectual brain comes into trying to break that down and decipher it and say, is there a logic to what I'm not appreciating about this? And sometimes there is and sometimes there isn't, and that's why those things are so married and so blended, right? So sometimes the reason I'm not digging on an aspect of a movie or a whole movie is because I think it's not working in a mechanical way or in a internal logic way or whatever it is. And sometimes it just ain't my thing, you know? Sometimes I just don't care for it. But the problem is, I am certainly, my emotional brain is influenced by my intellectual brain. So another person may not have my background or experience or just doesn't care about the, for lack of a better word, academia of a thing. Because I come from things at such a narrative place, right? That you might not be have the emotional reaction that I would when some of those rules are broken. And sometimes narrative rules get broken, and I don't care because I'm latching onto a thing in some other way. So, yeah, I just think those things are very, very difficult to separate.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think something interesting to say is that if the film is not working for you on the emotional side, and that could be for several reasons, whether it's not well made, so it's not resonating with you that way, or you just don't have any connection to it, so you're having trouble connecting with it. If it's not hitting you on that side, then your brain has nothing to do but just use the intellectual side. So that's what happens if the film's not resonating with me. I notice a bunch more things that bother me because I'm just sitting there thinking the whole time about stuff because I'm not invested.
That's a terrific point, yeah. And if a thing really works for you, I mean, sometimes you might be thinking about that stuff just because you're recognizing how well it's crafted, right? Mm-hmm. So you might be thinking about those things. You also might be so invested in characters and situations and, the benign lie that the piece is telling you, where you're wrapped up in it, you forget you're even watching a movie, that you're not intellectualizing those things because you're not thinking about the production side of it. You're not thinking about the script. You're not reading it, as I often do when I'm watching things. I'm not seeing the screenplay. I'm living something.
Yeah. That's when a movie's really well made and it's really hitting you. You don't even think you're watching a movie.
Yeah, very, very often that's the case. But yeah, so I mean, I guess the cop-out answer is it is difficult to separate those things. But I think that to some degree, there is a difference. So it's sort of like a what do you call that, DJ? The charts with the circles that overlap.
Yeah. What is that?
Is it a Venn diagram or?
Yeah. I think so.
It's one of those where there's a place where about 20% of that meets, and that's where it becomes really difficult to read your own motivation for your interest or lack thereof in a thing.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily need to try to distinguish because different films will hit you different ways. Some films will resonate with you emotionally. Some will it depends. Like movies that are just completely hitting you in nostalgia bones are mostly just emotional, and you don't care about things that don't necessarily make sense because it's making you feel the feels.
Yeah, absolutely. Or you go, and I guess that is where I'm glad you said that, because I guess that is where I separate it, where I can recognize this has problems. Like, this is objectively making mistakes or not sticking landings in whatever way it's not working. But, like, the part of me that's really enjoying it doesn't care, So, like, I have done reviews of things I love where I'm mostly criticizing them. How could that possibly be? Because that's the stuff that's interesting to talk about sometimes, Where I absolutely loved this experience. Here's everything that doesn't work about it. And sometimes I've even loved things because of their flaws. I know I bring up Jurassic House all the time, but that's the thing with that. Like, that movie's terrible, but I really like it. And when I discuss what I don't like about it, or what doesn't work about it, that's my explaining why I'm liking it, because it's such a fascinating train wreck, and that's what I enjoy about it. But then you get something like 89, which I enjoy earnestly, but it's really difficult for me to talk about that now without just talking about a lot of things that aren't working with it, because it's also kind of a fascinating kind of thing, that it came together the way it did. And I've talked about this a lot with Star Trek, where I used to have I ran a in-person Star Trek club for 15 years, and we would have new people that would come in and wonder if we even liked Star Trek, because we just made fun of it constantly. And it's because we knew it that well, and because we recognized its flaws, and it's just sort of like the relationship you might have with a best friend, where you spend most of your time making fun of each other, but it's all, in an endearing kind of way.
Yeah, or family. Some families are like that. Like, that's how they show affection, is making fun of each other. That's how my family was, and it's very strange when I married my wife, and she's like, this is weird, because her family's like all super nice to each other.
Okay, we should move on. This is definitely one that I could talk about more, but I've spent too long on it, so it probably won't be its own video now. I will be more mindful of that as we go along. Go ahead, DJ.
Good question, Cinemagraphic. All right, we got a super chat from T-Edge1.
Yay, T-Edge, what we're going to do every time.
$10. Thoughts on the new Winnie the Pooh slasher film announcement? Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Did anyone have that on their 2023 bingo card? Because I didn't.
Yeah,
Great
I
show,
saw.
Guys. Always a pleasure.
Thanks. Before we started, pleasure. I saw somebody mention that in the pre-comments, and I thought it must be a joke or something.
What is happening?
I did not know about this. I guess we'll go ahead and look it up, shall we? Okay.
I got WIN and it already popped up. Oh, come on. What is this?
Why does this have to exist?
Don't do this. How can they even do this if does Disney still has the rights?
I would think they would, or they still did. Is it?
Oh, they lapsed into the public domain 5 months ago.
Okay, there you go.
This is already happening. This is.
Well, that's unfortunate. I'll boycott stuff, but I ain't seeing this.
God, what in the world?
Look at him.
This is why sometimes I don't want things to go back into the public domain.
Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, director teases slasher film plot, Pooh and Piglet go on a rampage. Why? Why is this?
What is the point of that? Why do we need to see things as opposite as...
Well, I didn't know about this until just now, so I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about it. Like, if we see a trailer, we'll maybe talk about it next time. But I'll just say that these things get made because of brand recognition. And once this has always been, we've talked about this, DJ. This has always been my worry about popular things finally going into public domain. Is that you'll have anybody as dog can make a thing, and people will see it potentially because they've heard of it. So this is going to have kind of an annoying novelty for probably enough people that it can make money if they spend little enough on it. Where it's like, where people will think, wouldn't it be crazy to see Winnie the Pooh with a knife slashing people up? And I don't care about that, and I don't want to precedent set where we do that with everything, where like you have to have the crass, dark, rough and tumble, version of everything. And honestly, we already get that enough with major corporations that own properties that haven't gone to the public domain yet, right? Yes. You have to have the dark and gritty version of everything. You have to have the dark and gritty version of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air now. So like, of course, when something goes in the public domain, that's the first thing somebody's going to do with it.
Yeah, well, we're getting this and that this is probably not that bad because it's going to go into obscurity and never be heard of again. It's just fine. But we have this stupid Velma show coming out right now from HBO on HBO Max from WB, and it's going to be like what I assume is going to be like the Harley Quinn show, but with Velma. It's supposed to be some raunchy R-rated animated show with Velma, and I'm like, what?
Because it worked with one thing, so now we got to do it with everything. And it, like, whatever your tastes are, whether you like that brand of comedy or just how they've handled that specifically with the Harley Quinn show, at least that's Harley Quinn. Like, that's a character that it, to some degree, makes sense to give that treatment to. Why would you do that with Velma or Winnie the Pooh? Like,
I don't know.
They've already shot it. Okay, this is weird. So we're just now hearing about this. Maybe this has been making the news rounds, but it's only just now started trending or whatever. Because I had not heard about this at all. But this article from Variety says it wrapped earlier this month, and the first stills. Well, we've already seen the still, but yeah, that's. There's more stills. Oh God, I don't want to see more things from this. If I have to look at it, I'm going to make you guys look at it.
Well, it's a woman in a hot tub, and they don't look anything like Pooh and Piglet. One's just wearing a pig mask, and one's wearing a bear mask.
Yeah, it looks like it was made for like $6.50. No one is going to mistake this for Disney. Waterfield said. I'm assuming that's the director. I'm just jumping around here. When you see the cover for this, and you see the trailers and the stills and all of that, there's no way anyone's going to think this is a child's version of it. I mean, okay, I guess I'm glad that they're making sure everybody knows who it's for, but what is the point? It's just guys in a bear mask and a pig mask. Like, it's not... Are they... Like, it's not even... What is it? I mean, I've always said that you can make anything work, and if they were really clever with it, I guess they're not going to change my mind on just I don't want something like that with that material, because I don't generally enjoy, and I have to say generally because maybe there's some example I'm not thinking of, DJ, but like I don't generally enjoy like wholesome things from my childhood like perversified in that way. You know, like I don't need.
Yeah. We didn't. Neither of us like Power/Rangers.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't. You know. I don't. I'm really glad that Powerpuff Girls series hasn't gone to series yet.
I don't think they're gonna. I guess that's a little bit. They're not intentionally trying to perversify that, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
I don't know. With some of the plot points with that, it sure reads that way. No. It's not. I guess the word now. It's not perversified in the sense that they're turning them into like horror characters and stuff. But they made Utonium like the worst possible person ever, and I forget all the details because I've excised that from my brain. But all right, let's move right along, shall we?
Let's do before I get depressed. John Ty, $5. Is it a good idea that people trust a critic's opinion so much that they stop using their own thoughts?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Wait, no. He said, is that a good idea?
Oh, no, I thought he said, is that a bad thing? Read the question again, would you?
Is it a good idea?
I'm sorry, I was reading other comments while you were reading that. Go ahead.
Is it a good idea that people trust a critic's opinion so much that they stop using their own thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, of course not. And I would imagine most people would, dismiss that idea out of hand, even if they don't realize that they are maybe accidentally doing that. I just think the question is phrased. Stacked. Is phrased kind of funny, DJ. Like,
yeah, I think that happens, but it's people aren't aware that it's happening. I think anyone, if you ask that, would say it was a bad thing. But
yeah, for the most part. I mean, there's also this. I don't know. I think a lot of people that do that, DJ, just aren't thinking a lot about their entertainment in general, probably.
Yeah, they don't care. Like I know a lot of people that are like, well, Rotten Tomatoes says it's good, so I go watch it. If it's not good, I don't watch it. There's no point.
Yeah, you have this idea, and I've talked about this a lot, of consensus, where we assume that there's a right or a wrong answer when it comes to criticism, and maybe it boils down to this, DJ. Maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree when I say this, but this just popped in my mind, so I'm going to say it. Maybe the idea with people subconsciously is just, look, somebody else gets paid to do that. If they're getting paid, they must be qualified in a way I'm not. So I'll let them do my thinking for me, and I won't waste my time with things that I'm told are not worthwhile. And I sympathize with that because there's an overabundance of stuff vying for your attention all the time, and you don't have time to look at everything. So look, going to a source you trust and saying, I'm not going to bother with that because I have better things to do, there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is in not using your own brain is when you watch a thing and you have your own unique personal response to it based on the person you are right now in the moment with the history and background and personality that you have, and then tomorrow, and I love these guys, but tomorrow Red Letter Media rips it apart and you go, oh, I'm not allowed to like this anymore. That's bad. That happens, and that's unfortunate. Or where people will even go further than that, where they'll listen to critics that they trust before they've seen a thing, and then they'll watch it anyway, and then it will completely cloud the experience they have, and they won't allow themselves to have an unfettered experience. And to some degree, I don't think it's possible to if you've already heard somebody else talk about a thing, which is why I have a generally pretty strict personal policy against listening to anybody talk about a thing before I've seen it, because I don't want... I don't want too much of a preconception of what I'm expected to think about a thing, what the consensus is.
Yeah, and this leads to conversations you have with people where you'll say your points on the movie, and then they'll send you like a review from Red Letter Media or something, or they'll send you, like, instead of being able to convey why they liked it, they'll just be like, well, no, this is it's good because watch this, and they'll throw like a review at you or like an article or something. I just something I've seen in the past.
Sometimes it feels like people not understanding the difference between fact and opinion.
Yeah, that's where we are.
And I don't mean to be a prude about this. I get how this happens with people. especially in an internet-driven world where, like I said, people really are looking for consensus, and people worry that they're not going to be able to get along with people or have, groups of friends and stuff if it gets real cliquish, right? It's like the internet is just high school all over again, perpetually, forever.
Oh yeah, I totally understand. Like if everyone in your group or whatever you're in, your Facebook, your Discord, is just bashing on a movie that you like it doesn't really feel like you can say much. You got to either just stay quiet till they're done talking about it, or come in and get blasted.
I have facetiously said this, in our Patreon Discord before, where we'll have several people who all seem to be kind of aligned in like, this movie looks terrible, and we're constantly bashing it and making fun of it, and we've had a trailer, it's not come out yet, and there's nothing wrong with that, because these are guys that are thoughtful, and who I think if the movie came out and they looked at it and they thought it worked despite, the assumptions they made going in, they would be able to change their minds, and they would allow their minds to be changed. But I have facetiously sometimes said, when I was kind of excited about a project and then everybody's just, bashing it before it's come out, oh, I guess this is one of those projects that I'm not allowed to be excited about, because this is the internet. This is what it's like.
Yeah, it feels like that sometimes, which is unfortunate, but I don't know. I guess the problem, and it's not a problem, but I think what happens is people just have a lot of fun, like bashing. So, like, that can be really fun for people sometimes. Like I've had that with things before. I think everyone has. If you don't like it and someone else doesn't, you kind of feel like a kinship with them, and it's just kind of fun to point out things that you think are funny. So I don't blame anyone for that.
Yeah. I'm not saying that we should be sensitive to the point where we're not allowed to make fun of anything because we might hurt somebody's feelings that liked that thing. Like, be kind to people, but like making fun. First of all, making fun of a thing that got made is different than a personal attack against a person that made it, and secondly, it's different than a personal attack against people that like it too.
Yeah. As long as I think you can do it in a way that's about the work and you're not directly calling that person stupid for liking it, which does happen and is unfortunate, but I think there's a way to do it cordially. But anyway, we are way off.
We really are. Yeah, I don't even know how we got to that place. But just backtracking for a second, it is sometimes a fact versus opinion issue, I think, where with what you were talking about, where you'll make a video with your personal stance on a thing, and somebody will go, no, here are the facts you don't understand. And the fact is, the facts are another review, much like mine, saying different things than what I said. And here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with trying to change somebody's mind or suggesting that if they think about it a different way, maybe they'll appreciate it more. There's nothing. Now, I would much prefer let's actually have a discussion, like you said. But there's nothing wrong, I don't guess, with saying this person articulated it better than I can, and I feel the way they feel about it, as opposed to they made my mind up for me. There is a distinction, and somebody can certainly make a video that says all the things you wanted to say better than you ever could have said it. Absolutely, and that's happened with all of us, I'm sure. But I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with going, this person broke all this down, and maybe you've not thought of it this way before, but sometimes or actually I'll even say very often, it ends up coming off a lot more like you're saying something's wrong with you because you're not thinking about it correctly. Like, there's a right answer. I've said this a lot with review, because I'll see a movie and talk about it initially, and then sometimes years later I'll give a somewhat different review, or maybe even a very different review, because my mind has been changed. And sometimes it's because I've seen it, the movie, more times, and I feel differently about it, and I'm not the same person exactly from moment to moment, and some of it is because I've had discussions with people and they've brought up things that I didn't think about before, and I'm looking at it in a different light. Because that can happen to me, I think, or to anybody. I mean, I don't mean to just make this about me and our viewers, but just talking about my own personal experience, I think sometimes because folks have seen that happen with me, DJ, people will get the impression that if only they point out that one item I've not thought about the way they have, or a mistake they haven't, that I haven't noticed, or like a thematic brilliant thing I haven't noticed. Either direction. This movie's great and you don't get it. This movie is terrible and you don't get it. My mind will be completely changed about a movie because of that one element, because of that one morsel. Like, there's a checklist, and it's like, you didn't get this box checked off the list, so now that you get it, it's good now, right? It doesn't always work that way. Because again, this relates to what we were talking about with that first question, the intellectual brain versus the emotional brain. But I'm still latching on to enough with it that even that's not changing my mind. Or I still don't care enough about these characters, they don't feel enough like real people, that yes, okay, you're right. Maybe it is a little bit, maybe it is about this thing you're saying it's about. I get thematically what it's about, but I'm not invested, though. Like, sometimes, I'm rambling now, but sometimes people will, or I've gotten messages from people that are like, well, Cap, now that you understand what the movie's about, isn't it a great movie? And I'm like, look, guys, I get that Dark Knight Rises is about moving on. That doesn't make it a great movie for me, you know? Like, I get the arguments that people have thrown about Thor Ragnarok is about imperialism. A, okay. B, not as much of it as some people I think it is. And C, so what about that? I still didn't care about anybody involved. Like,
yeah, that doesn't make it any less insufferable to sit through for me personally. So some movies that does, though. That's what's difficult, because sometimes that does. Sometimes you watch a movie once, it doesn't resonate with you at all, then you kind of look into it, do some research, find out what it's about, and go in with those eyes next time, and it's a completely different movie for you.
Well, Fight Club, I couldn't get into the first time I saw it, and then once I had the ending in mind, and I realized what it was really about, I went back and rewatched it and went, okay, this movie's brilliant, I get what everybody was saying. You can have that one tweak, but that's kind of different than just this one, like, minor element in a thing that, you know, you didn't get in the first place. But like you said, sometimes it will be a major thing, and you still just don't care. I mean, it's case by case.
Yeah. So just, give people a little bit of space. Maybe it'll work. Maybe leave the comment. Maybe it'll change his mind. If it doesn't, don't give him a bunch of grief. It's okay. We can.
I'm not trying, and I'm not trying to use this as a platform to complain about people in our community. It's just all I have is really my own personal experience to draw from, and this is a thing that I have dealt with on a somewhat regular basis, and it's related, and it's what I have to draw from.
Yeah.
It's a microcosm of what people in general on the internet deal with, and it's not all about review. It's also just about discussing your opinions on things you're watching. Okay, God, we've got to move on. Go ahead.
So we've done besides Winnie the Pooh, we've done two questions that we could have got a whole show out of. This is why I'm not going to be in the one that Cap does, because we'll just ramble forever. We'll just leave it to him. Nicholas D.E.K. Have you ever read...
Yay, Nicholas D.E.K.
D.E.K. D.E.K.
D.E.K. Lana Lang.
Have you ever read EU comics, e.g. Tintin Asterisks?
No, I have not.
Tintin/Asterix.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I have never looked at those. I have nothing to add. I know folks that are kind of fans of that stuff, and adaptations especially, but that is outside of my wheelhouse.
It's weird that there's a publishing company called EU. I immediately went to Star Wars EU comics before I got to the Tintin part.
Yeah, I don't even know what it stands for. I assume it's European something, but I don't even know, honestly. Maybe it's not, but I think that's British stuff. I don't know.
That's the reason Cap never checked that. Cap can't stand the Europeans.
Man, those darn Europeans. No, see, look, somebody's going to take this soundbite out of context.
That's the whole reason I'm here, is to provide out of context.
This could be this 8-second video circulating. Cap hates the EU. And then some people are going to think I mean the European Union, and the Geekvolution as a channel has just become about Brexit, and that's all we talk about now. And then there's going to be another contingency that's like, Cap's just really doubled down now. Star Wars sucks. Except for only the canonical things.
I can't stand that Geekvolution channel. It's so political these days. Oh no, don't worry. It's only European politics. It's fine.
Don't worry, it's only Star Wars politics.
All right.
Real Warzog, I think you just meant European comics. Oh, see, I didn't even know if we were talking about a publishing house or not.
Oh, well, perfect. I'm glad we made it there anyway. We made it to offending the Europeans anyway. What is Asterisk?
Asterisk is I think it's a superhero comic.
Interesting.
I think, but I don't know. I've got an image in my head of what that looks like, but I don't know how to describe it.
My head, for some reason, I don't know if it's because of the relation to Tintin and that character looks similar. I went to Astro Boy right when I.
Oh no, it's not. This is a different thing than what I was thinking. Looks like Norse parody stuff, maybe. Oh no, Roman. Asterix is in the era of Caesar, apparently.
Oh, you might love that.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this.
You love that era.
But yeah, real cartoony looking.
Oh, okay. So yeah, along the lines of Tintin, kind of like a comic strip almost. Sweet. Well, thanks for enlightening us.
Yeah.
We are dumb Americans who only.
Nicholas says EU was just short for Europe. Got to fit a lot of words in a super chat.
Hey, we don't hate anyone for trying to shorten things up, but we do not promise that we will understand all your abbreviations. All right.
I shouldn't say this because it's just going to encourage people more and more to get like as cryptic and use as many acronyms as humanly possible. But DJ, if the more people do that, the longer their super chat gets talked about, because we're just trying to figure out what we're even looking at.
Hey, I'm not going to apologize for my mistake there, because we were talking about your question way longer than we would have if I didn't make that mistake.
Exactly.
You're welcome. Yeah. Thank you, Nicholas. Checkers the Inventor pops in.
Yay, Checkers!
Checkers! He's back. With 3 super chats in a row, so we're going to stay with Checkers for a bit.
Let's do it. Are they all related, or are they completely different things?
That is yet to be seen.
Oh.
First one is $5. Have you ever found yourself wanting a story to go somewhere because it is what you want for the characters, even if you know it makes for a better story for things to go another direction? That was the second part.
Okay, read that one more time.
Have you ever found yourself wanting a story to go somewhere because it is what you want for the characters, even if you know it makes for a better story for the things to go in another direction?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I think more often what'll happen is I'll think I have, I'll get kind of full of myself and be like, nah, this is clearly where this should go. And then sometimes I feel proven wrong because the thing ends up being just as interesting or more so than what I came up with, or I'll feel vindicated by the end. But I see what you're saying. I think the obvious, I can't think of a specific example, but I think the obvious brand of this that happens a lot is when you go, I get why you broke these characters up, but I wanted them to stay together. Or I get why you killed this character off, but I wish we could have had more adventures with this person. That sort of thing. Like, the first thing that comes to mind is tragedy, I guess, where, one of the most important kind of writing 101 rules is don't spare your darlings. Like, don't be afraid to kill your darlings. And that doesn't just mean kill people off willy-nilly. It means let bad things happen to your characters because the real world is filled with conflict, and stories are about conflict. So more often than not, when I kind of wish a thing is going in a different direction, but I get why it is, and it should be, it's because I hate that something awful is happening to a character that I'm invested in, and if it's going well, I should be feeling that way. It should be ripping my heart out the way it is. So that's when it happens the most, I think.
Recent example, it's not exactly the same thing, but the movie Belfast from last year. It wasn't necessarily that it went in a different direction, but it was different things were put in the film than I wanted. Like there was this amazing scene where it's kind of about a boy and his father, and that's the stuff that was resonating with me. But every time there would be a scene where this big thing would happen, and then the boy and the father would be walking home, and I'm like, oh yes, I'm going to see this great conversation with him. How's he going to talk to his son after this horrible thing just happened? And then it just cuts and goes to the next scene. I'm like, no, it kept not having the scenes that I wanted to see. It kept just jumping around the scenes, and I was like, wow. So I really had a hard time getting into that movie. But
is it because it was telling a different story than you wanted it to, or is it because it felt like certain details were unnecessary that you wanted to see regardless of whether they had to be there for the narrative?
Yeah, I felt like, I don't know. It kind of felt a little all over the place. It's Kenneth Branagh's movie from last year,
okay,
which was really highly praised.
I heard about that, but I've not seen it.
It got nominated for Best Picture, but it didn't win any. I don't think it won anything. I think it might have won supporting or something. But I don't know. It just didn't click with me. All the things that I was liking about it seemed to not be interesting to the director. But yeah, still enjoyed it. It was all right. It was pretty good. I mean, it's a good movie. I just didn't hit me as hard as I wanted it to.
Yeah, I would need to have a little time to think of real specific examples with that. But let's go ahead and move on.
Yeah. And then his second one is the quality of film/books actually subjective, or is it objective and we just don't know how to measure it yet?
Wow, that's a good one. That's a contender. I would keep that in our back pocket, DJ. Maybe copy and paste that somewhere if you don't mind. Sure. Read it down one more time.
Checkers the Inventor, $5. Is the quality of film/books actually subjective, or is it objective and we just don't know how to measure it yet? We don't have the technology. Yeah.
So this is one of those kind of like $100,000 sorts of questions, right? For my money, it isn't whether the quality is objective or subjective. It's when is it and how much, like where does the pendulum swing. So I don't think this is a matter of like of scientific knowledge. I don't think it's the same thing as like things in nature that we can't fully quantify or measure, but we think they're there, or we know they kind of have to be, even if we don't totally get it, like gravity. I don't think that this is gravity. Where like there's always a right or wrong answer for the quality of a thing. We're just not enlightened or smart enough yet to get it. I love that question.
I don't know. I want Captain Logan to be the Newton, or an apple just falls on your head and you're like, I get criticism.
Yeah. What he's saying is, or what I think I don't want to put words in his mouth. What I think he's asking is there a mathematical equation for narrative brilliance, for narrative quality, for when a story is working or when it isn't? And the answer to that is sort of, but not really, I guess. You see what I'm saying?
It would have to be different for
because
person.
Well, here's what's so weird about the craft of storytelling, and this is a thing I got into real briefly the other day when we reviewed that 50s gangster movie that we just talked about. What is that called? I keep confusing it with The Offer, and it's not The Offer. What is... Here's what's so weird about... Whoa, I can hear myself talking. This is a thing I got into... The Outfit. Talked about this the other day with The Outfit, because that movie makes a metaphor about... it talks about craft versus art, and it makes a metaphor out of the craft of being a gangster and manipulating people into making choices they don't want to make so that you can get what you want out of them, and ultimately so that maybe they can off themselves, kill each other. But it makes a metaphor out of that with the craft of being a tailor, of making men's suits. And it talks a lot about like the formula of and precision and meticulous nature of doing that job. There's always a right way to do it, and the character suggests, it's a brilliant movie, by the way, and the character suggests that what he does is not art. It is a craft, and when I get to the end of the movie, I say, yeah, but I kind of think it's both. And I feel the same way about writing, and about really art in general, where when I went to college for writing, I said I was going to get good at a craft. And the craft that I wanted to do is a very subjective thing, in that you can write about anything you want to, you can tell any sort of stories you want to, but there are conventions. There are right ways and wrong ways to do things, and yet some of the best examples of fiction, some of our favorite things, are things that break those rules constantly and do them on purpose. And sometimes it works as long as you can tell that it was done intentionally, because there's no such thing as a perfect formula. In the exact same way as you'll never have a perfect system of government, you'll never have a perfect set of rules to tell a person how stories should be made to always be able to have a positive emotional effect on a person, to always make a person engaged and caring about what happens, and interested in your characters, and so I'll see and that movie is like this, where it's a textbook example of it goes really by the book in screenwriting, and yet. And I don't think it's breaking a lot of rules, but I don't think the only reason that movie is great is because it did everything properly. You know what I mean? I don't think I'm invested in characters just because it followed the correct formula. It went paint by number and got it all right. But I'm able to point, the writing is just really good. You know what I mean? Like these characters came alive, but it felt really well crafted because it understood and followed a lot of the conventions of narrative. So I say all of that to say, this is a tough question, by the way. I say all of that to say
you've been talking about this since you started the channel, pretty much, this topic.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's it's one of the hardest things about what I do in narrative analysis, because you can point out everything that a piece is doing correctly or incorrectly in following the rules of the thing, but at the end of the day, is it the rules that make a piece objectively good? Well, yes and no, because I've watched things that do fully follow the modern conventions of narrative that are dry as bone and unengaging, and I don't care. And we complain all the time about things being formulaic. So if the point was following a formula, then and that makes characters engaging, or makes a piece on the whole engaging, then you could never complain about a thing being formulaic. Then why is that a problem? So again, I guess my point is, when you're trying to do anything well, there's going to be conventions, but we can't make it. We can't give you the mathematical equation. We can't tell you 100% this is how to always make people care about a thing. It's just so case by case, and so it's like I have to say with so many things, it's a bit of both, right? It is subjective, but it's not entirely subjective. It is objective, but it's not entirely objective.
Yeah. there are objective things. That's why you go to school. You have to learn those things. They say that to us in art school all the time. You have to know the rules before you can break them. You got to learn all the rules. Like Picasso was an incredible painter, could do photorealistic stuff, and then wanted to do his crazy impressionist stuff. There's a hilarious scene. Have you seen the latest Wes Anderson movie from last year, The French Dispatch? It's about a French outpost of a Kansas newspaper, which you might find interesting. But anyway, there's a hilarious scene where this is the artist who has invented, he's in prison, he has invented Impressionism. And this guy who's like visiting the prison sees it, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna make $1 million off this guy. And he's like trying to like hype him up and make him really famous outside. And he says, I'm not gonna remember it perfectly, but he says the line, he's like, the way you know the way you know he's an Impressionist artist is he can draw really, really well. Look at this bird he drew with just a matchstick, but he does it. Oh, I love that movie. It's a great movie.
Yeah, that's fantastic. No, that's a really good encapsulation of whatever random noise I just made.
Oh, you just made a random... Was that you making the dog noise as well?
No, and Brandon is not coming down the stairs this time, by the way.
We don't know who it is. It's some intruder in Cap's house right now.
Here's my last word on this. So much of narrative analysis and just review in general is working your way backward. And it's the opposite of the way a story should be told, right? Like, you don't want to, generally speaking, work backwards from a conclusion when you're writing fiction. It's almost always better to start with characters or an idea or both than it is to go, I want to make this point, or I want my characters to get to this particular place. And so I have to like jam things together to make that happen. But review, and I realize, having a sense of where you're going and writing toward an ending is important. I don't mean that, but it's just when you have such a meticulous plan of these are the things that I want to happen in my narrative, and then you force characters to do those things even if it feels out of character, that's when it's not working. However, the job of a reviewer is kind of that. You start with, this is how I feel about it, or this seems to be working, or this seems to not be working, and then you break down why. And you cannot always apply the elements you figured out to every other thing. That's the whole point of doing long analysis for lots of different things.
Yeah, or you could just do like one for each kind of superhero movie and be done with it.
And that's why my rubric is always, what is this trying to accomplish? Is it actually managing that? Like based on what the piece itself seems to be, the contract it's making with you, right? This piece, as it's given to me, seems to be saying, I want to accomplish this. Does it accomplish that? Was that worth doing in the first place? And you can use basic rules of storytelling to kind of help you decide if the structure of it is effective in accomplishing that, because a lot of things really do need a pretty like standard modern typical way of telling stories in order to get points across, and sometimes just abandoning that entirely is the way to go. And so I never want to be arbitrary about it. And that's why I don't think you can say, like, here's the magic formula, we just haven't found it yet. It is case by case. That's how art works. It has to be. But we notice patterns. And so we see why a lot of things don't work in comparing them to other things that have or haven't managed that well, that are doing similar things to those things. Not everything is comparable.
Yeah, he only mentions film and books, but yeah, you'd have to crack the code for just art in general. Right?
Yeah. Well, and also, what does effective mean? Like a piece being because earlier I was saying that, and I know I've been talking about this forever, but this is really interesting, and I guess I should have made this the thing that I made the whole video about.
3 for 3.
Because we're still talking about it, yeah. This was a terrible experiment, apparently, because I get a really interesting idea. I can't stop talking about it. You know what? Let's just go ahead and move on.
Okay. Galaxy Edge 1, $5. In the future, when holodecks are the norm, what will watching streamers like Geekvolution look like? Also, well, we get to see below his waist. What? And how would it project old Geekvolution episodes?
The answer to this, I think, and I'm going to have to explain this, DJ, so really bear with me, okay?
Okay, I'm ready.
The answer to this is the Nintendo Wii.
Grandmas would get into it?
No. No. The reason I say the Nintendo Wii is because that system proved to us that just because a thing is possible doesn't make it practical or the new way everybody's going to want to do a thing. So just because motion control got to a place where you could pretty effectively play a lot of video games with it, didn't mean that every gamer wanted their body to become the controller. A lot of gamers just don't want to exercise while they game. That's not what they're there for, you know? And a lot of games don't translate well to that. And I don't want to say that it's just a if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. I think a lot of people were thinking, well, there's this, like the generation of gamers up till now, the couple of generation of gamers, I guess, are all used to a controller. They're going to always want that. But eventually it'll be like books with digital, right? Like a lot of people have just moved on. They're using Kindles. They're not buying books anymore. Maybe that will happen with this. It hasn't. The controller has still remained the main staple for gaming, and the Wii was kind of a fad, and yet there's still some motion control stuff that people like doing because certain kinds of games are better for that. Like there's always been, or for a long time anyway, there's been a contingency of like exercise type games, and you're not going to do that with a controller, and it makes more sense to have like an actual motion control thing for that to work. I'm gonna get to the actual question here in a second, but virtual reality, VR headsets have come back in a huge way, and that has gotten popular, and there is a large contingent of gamers that use that for particular things. That was a fad when it didn't work as well, and it has come back and is not as much of a fad now. It looks like that might be here to stay in a way that motion control, to the level that we had it in 07 and beyond with the Wii, I think 07, maybe just before that, wasn't. So I say that to say, when we get to the holodeck, for those of you that don't know what he's talking about with Star Trek, when we get to a place where we have like holographic recreations where it feels like you're in reality, and you don't have to play a video game to play basketball, you can just play basketball. It's going to be exactly like the Wii, right? Or like virtual reality is actually a better way to look at it. It actually is a form of virtual reality. People will do it for some things, but for other things, the wheel ain't broke. So with YouTube videos, I don't think people are going to suddenly want to do that in a much more like highfalutin, super technological way. People are still going to want to, and movies and everything. I think there will still be a place for watching a film, or listening to a podcast, or watching someone, even maybe still the game streaming thing, watching somebody play an old video game, or something. You might even use the holodeck to do that. You might go
actually right next to them as they play it. It like turns the camera around.
Or you just go, I'm tired of my boring tiny house, but in my holodeck I can pretend like I live in a penthouse, and I'll watch my YouTube videos in my penthouse on the holodeck.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? So I don't think that invention, when it finally happens, even at the sophistication that it is in Star Trek, takes away everything. I think that some things you just end up looking at there instead of in the real world, and some things you would do virtually, and some things you would do regularly, because that's what we've learned with video games, is that it turns out people weren't looking for a replacement for the controller. Star Trek gives you this idea that you replace like almost every other narrative form with the holodeck, and I never bought that, where people that would read books in the 24th century would be kind of old-fashioned, like Picard. I like Shakespeare, like he's an intellectual. He's just old-fashioned. But everybody else wants to like go on the holodeck and be part of the story. That we have precedent now where that's not exactly how it works with the we thing. I think that really does tell you a lot. I think you're going to have lots of people that still will want to watch a film, but then sometimes it would be fun for them to be part of the whole thing. But sometimes you just want to sit down and relax, not get like shot at where you're running away from police. You want to watch another person get shot at while he's running away from police.
Yeah, that sounds like a completely different experience.
Exactly.
All right. $9.99 from Adrian Reyna Martinez. No question. Just wanted to say I get my opinions exclusively from Red Letter Media. Thank you.
I'm sorry, who was that again?
Adrian Reyna Martinez.
Yay! Adrian Reyna Martinez!
And then he just says, excited for the chat as always, gentlemen.
Oh, thanks so much, man.
Yes, thank you so much for the support and the
a lot
remarks.
of people, a lot of people watch Red Letter Media and learn about things that they'll never bother to watch totally through their lens. And I do this some as well because I really enjoy that channel. But I try to check myself a little bit and go, okay, they hated this thing or they loved this thing. It doesn't mean that I do. It means that I've not seen it, and I imagine very often that I would have the same experience looking at a thing that they did, particularly the silly B movies that they'll review. Generally speaking, I imagine that wouldn't be that much of a different experience for me. But like if I watch them talk about a new movie, like a normal, kind of more A-list kind of movie, and not a weird, thing somebody made in their basement, I have to kind of take that with a grain of salt because I disagree with them somewhat frequently on blockbusters and stuff. And not always, but like I liked Rogue One like way more than they did. I liked more recently Doctor Strange 2 way more than they did. So I just think it's important to keep in mind that if you've not seen the thing they've looked at, just because they've described it the way they've described it doesn't, and it sounds like you would hate it, doesn't mean that you would necessarily if you would actually sit down and look at it. And you don't have to, but I just think it's probably more thoughtful. And I'm not trying to tell anybody how to talk about things, but just for me personally, it seems more thoughtful and more honest to say like that sounds dumb than that thing is dumb. Like if you've only seen the Red Letter Media videos on the Star Wars prequels, to go, those movies are terrible, that guy said they're terrible. Well, you've not looked at it. And I mean, he breaks them down real hard, and you might find that you feel exactly the same way he does about it, but you always have to take things with a grain of salt if you've not looked at it yourself, because there's a tactic that, and we're all guilty of it, those of us that have made these kinds of videos, there's always a tactic you can't help but use, which is to present, especially if you're using footage from a thing, to present the material as much in the way that you want it to look as possible. So you might not even mean to be misleading, but you go, this movie's dumb, you're going to make it look as dumb as you can make it look. There's no way around. This movie is wonderful. You're going to really play up how great it is, and you're going to make it look as good as humanly possible. And you can make people think they have an opinion that they've not developed themselves.
Absolutely. I agree with that. There are many things that my entire knowledge of them is from the Superhero Rewind. But I don't care because I'm never going to check that thing out. But don't usually do that for things that I actually want to check out.
One of my favorite... Sorry, let me say this real quick because it just came to me. DJ, I don't know if you know about this. One of my favorite criticisms I ever got, this was years and years ago. Somebody wrote an article that seemed to be fairly well read on... I guess, I don't remember what the website was, but somebody that got a lot of traffic. Somebody wrote an article about movie critique on YouTube, and it was well before you had as many video essays, and I think maybe even before we were calling them video essays as much as we do now, and back when I was doing a lot of rewinds. And Superhero Rewind was discussed in that article, and have I told you about this before?
Maybe. It sounds vaguely familiar, but I'm not sure.
The header of the article was an artist's rendering of a thumbnail or something for the Superman Returns Superhero Rewind. So I was like very featured in this, and wow. I was like one of the main examples, and he was, and I hate to throw this guy under the bus, because I thought it was really neat to be featured like this, but the premise of his argument was completely bonkers. Because what he was saying was that or not just me, but like videos like the Rewind on Superman Returns are flawed and not as good as certain other ones that he would name, because they had reverence for the material they were reviewing in a way that, man, these other guys didn't with Superman Returns. So the way it read was just, you like Superman Returns, and you don't like that I didn't like Superman Returns. And that was kind of it. It was like, yeah, I'm not, it's not going to look like I have reverence for a thing that I'm taking apart in an analysis because not much of it works to me. So basically you're just saying I'm wrong because I don't like this movie. But he was throwing around big words like reverence, like, I never understood that argument. But I thought it was hilarious. That's one of my favorite things anybody's ever complained about with me, is he didn't like this movie. He didn't have any reference for it. I love that.
Yeah, it'd be very difficult to express reverence throughout an entire review where you didn't like the film at all.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he was saying I was being somehow like disrespectful or not giving it its day or something.
Maybe he thought you were being dismissive.
I mean, dismissive, yeah. And I mean, agree to disagree. Because I personally don't think I was with that at all, but I don't know. I always thought that was really funny. Yeah, and this isn't me.
Maybe like your first Batman Returns one or something. I could see more.
Yeah. Well, and I'll be the first to admit some of those early ones I do come off that way. Absolutely. But Superman Returns, I talked a lot about how much I loved that when it first came out, and I can't figure out why I had that experience with it. Like,
weird. I like to think that guy just really liked Superman Returns, and that's what spurred the entire article.
That's how it read. That felt like working backwards from a conclusion, where it was like, I love Superman Returns, and this guy didn't like it, and that pissed me off, and how can I make it look like a thoughtful article? This isn't me saying, by the way, I can't handle criticism. I just thought that was a really funny way to put a thing, where like, your review's bad because you don't have reverence. You gave it like a 1.5 or whatever it is I gave that. Like, I think that's really funny.
I hope he saw your Superman Returns addendum that you did too.
Oh yeah,
John Todd.
Whole major plot point I did not understand. The whole whispering thing. I think that's what that was about. Yeah.
Yeah. This is perfect. Maybe that would have been the one thing that made him like your entire Superhero Rewind if he had seen that addendum.
Too bad I couldn't somehow tack it on, like after the video had already been uploaded.
This is a perfect set.
Thomas Lowe, how long ago did that happen? Man, it might have been maybe as much as 10 years. 9 or 10 years, maybe. I think it was. Wow. I think it was 12 or 13.
Go find it, guys. Somebody go find that article.
Yeah, I'd like to see it again. I wonder if it's still published.
He all of a sudden gets like a whole bunch of comments yelling at him.
No, don't do that.
This is perfect how this worked out, because you were just talking about you can take criticism. John Ty, why is it that a creator of a piece of entertainment always has to act professional when dealing with toxic fans?
Wow, that's another question that's reading almost loaded. So, like, are you... Because I'm trying to decide if... Sorry, who asked that?
John Ty.
Hey, John Ty! So, I'm wondering if John asked that saying, like, he believes that they always have to... So why am I right about that? Or if he's saying, I've heard you say this before, why do you think... It's always...
I took it that second way.
In all respect to you, John, it's just I always have to take a step back for a second and try to figure out how to read a question that has a kind of opinion embedded in it, because there's an assumption, obviously, right, being made in that question. Would you read it one more time?
Why is it that a creator of a piece of entertainment always has to act professional when dealing with toxic fans?
So I guess I'll say that, first of all, I do agree with the premise, even though it's an opinion that's stated like fact. But yeah, so I agree with that, whether you think that and that's why you wrote it or not. And the reason I agree with that idea, that you have to be professional when dealing with toxic fans, a couple things. First of all, just for the sake of your own career, I think it's important to look at speaking publicly the same way you look at having your rights read when you get arrested. Anything you say or do can be used against you, and very likely will. So, when you're, always check yourself in the heat of the moment. Like, if you're dealing with immature people that you think are being unfair in the way they're framing their criticism, or specifically what it is that they're saying, in that heat of the moment, you might say something that you'll regret and might not even realize how it comes off as you're saying it. So that's the first thing. Second of all, I think in a professional setting, you should be professional. I mean, it's just as simple as that. Like, I think people should be classy. I think people should be kind to each other, and I think that just obviously in general, but particularly in a professional setting, you have to remember that it's not just about you. When you're talking about a collaborative thing that you made with other people, what you say is going to reflect not only on you, but on the studio and on the other people that made the film with you, etc., etc. And so that's, I think that's just the only way to behave, and it could affect you down the road. And then I would say feeding trolls is pointless. Whether they really are trolls or not, if you think that people are being toxic, if that's the word you want to use for it, why are you wasting your time with it? Is always my response to that. If I think the rule of thumb maybe should be, or this would be mine, and I guess kind of is with what I do on YouTube, but like if I was more in a public spotlight, if I was in Hollywood, in entertainment or something, my rule of thumb would be if somebody else isn't being constructive or thoughtful, you can't be constructive and thoughtful enough. So you might as well just leave it alone. Like, if you have to respond to it, do it as constructive and thoughtful as humanly possible. But it's so easy to be brought down to somebody else's level. So, ignore it if it just doesn't make any sense to engage. And if you're pigeonholed somehow where you're forced to engage, let's say you're in an interview and somebody's being insane, or there's enough backlash where people really want you to respond to a thing, just be as classy as humanly possible. Don't show your hand. Don't make it personal, and be as unemotional as humanly possible. So yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts about this. It bothers me when people engage with that.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I think you should. But I also am sympathetic. I know it can be really tough when you spend years and years of your life, and as hard as it is directing a movie, and as exhausting as it is, and then people just are super dismissive. And I think it's easier when you're online, because you can just you have time while you're typing to calm down. But like in an interview, you get emotional. Someone's berating you. You just kind of let stuff slip out. I know James Gunn has been. I think he's been doing a good job of staying classy while going at a lot of people on Twitter lately. I don't remember what it was about. Was it about Peacemaker? I can't remember, but I know he.
Well, sometimes you have to stand up for yourself. Again, this is, I mean, like most things, it is a case by case thing.
Yeah. I'm with you. It is tough. The Real Wartsog, $5. Is modern storytelling over-reliant on Shakespeare? Is it possible to move away from his archetypes, or is it ingrained in our conception of fiction?
That's great. I like that a lot. Yes and yes is my cop-out answer with that, right? Like, it feels like somehow it's both. or that I can't be totally sure, but yeah, there is a lot of kind of primordial stuff in Shakespeare that's real hard to get away from. That if you're writing fiction, you're going to keep going to some of the same archetypes that he did, either because it's so prevalent in the culture and in what you grew up reading and watching, or because it's so universal that you would have gotten there even if you'd never read Shakespeare. What I'd love to see would be an alternate dimension where there was no Shakespeare, and see if there still is a lot of Shakespeare in modern storytelling. It's an almost unanswerable question, but I do think that sometimes we lean too much on certain like plot points and things from particular Shakespeare plays. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's hard to criticize them because you don't know if they purposely stole it or if it was just like they might not even been thinking about it when they wrote it.
But you know what bothers me more? That we can't get away from Alice in Wonderland.
I remember you posted about this a while back.
I'm so sick of it. It's like, I want to say it's like the only thing that anybody doing especially genre fiction, that wants to make literary references to have read. But I think it's even worse than that. I think it's because they don't read, and everything else they're looking at keeps going to Alice in Wonderland, and so they keep referencing Alice in Wonderland because it makes them look well read or like intellectual or something.
So funny that we're at a place where like I'm intellectual because I read a children's book.
Yeah, because I read and it's old. All right, DJ, how many more super chats do we have?
We have 3 at the moment.
Okay, can we do a pre-written question?
We absolutely can. Blue Dragon 5.
Hi.
Cap, what do you
Blue Dragon 5!
Yay! Thank you for calling in. What do you want your children to take away from Superhero Rewind and Geekvolution as a whole?
Oh my goodness. And I've already been self-indulgent enough talking too much channel stuff, I feel like, this evening. Thanks for that question. And I don't know that I've ever been asked that.
There you go, Blue. Yay, Blue!
DJ, the big stuff... I'm trying to think of what like the number one thing would be, but I guess it's as far as like
don't make promises you can't keep. Don't start projects you can't finish. Kids.
Yeah, well, there's that. Oh, that also might just be inevitable depending on your personality. No, I wasn't even thinking about it that direction. I was gonna say as far as just like the building of a community and a career, if you're okay with that word, part of it is just like be consistent and try things and be think outside of the box a little bit and make it a hobby first. Like make anything that you love to do that you hope maybe someday, and I didn't entirely even have this ambition because I didn't come at this hoping to do this for a living. I was trying to write books. But anything that you might have the ambition to do permanently or for a long time as your job, hoping you'll get successful at it, make it a hobby first and do it because you love it. I think that's the most important thing. And then continue to do it because you love it, even if part of the reason you're doing it is because it's putting food on the table. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the point that you're... that's not you dread it or you really don't want to do it anymore, maybe take a break or rethink that a little bit and try to find something that you do love. Like don't do it just because it's your job. I think it's probably the most important takeaway just for the YouTube thing as a job, as a career, as a thing that I do. With Superhero Rewind in particular, I guess what I would hope my kids would take from looking at the work I've made, specifically, is to think critically, use your own brain, and say what you really think, even if it's not popular and you know you're going to get a lot of crap for it. I think that's really important. And don't be afraid to get a little bit silly and goofy with it, because I used to be a lot drier, and it's more fun for me, but I think it's more fun for everybody else at the point where I realized that what we're doing is not just an academic exercise. People like being entertained, and I mean, like, there are educational channels on YouTube that aren't as much about that. Not everything has to be an entertainment, certainly, but that has helped me a lot in continuing to want to pursue this for as long as I have, but I think also in keeping a hold of the community.
Yeah. No, that's great. Wonderful answer.
Thanks. I'm sure I could have done better, but moving right along.
No. So hard on yourself, man.
Thanks, Blue Dragonfly. I appreciate it, man.
Logan Dodd.
Yeah, Logan Dodd. His name is my name, too.
Top 5 favorite bad CW tropes. Go!
Wow. God, I don't even know if I can do with that. That might be the video, DJ.
There you go.
That sounds like a good video. What do you think?
I think that would be a blast.
Should I keep that in my back pocket and move on, or should I attempt it real quick? What do you think?
I mean, if you come up with, we could always we can answer it later. If you find something you want to do, if you like better, but we could hold.
Because I'm not sure I even want to throw them out if I'm going to make the video.
Yeah, you don't want to spoil it. No spoilers here.
Yeah. I will say the first one that comes to mind, just so that I haven't not responded at all to him since he left his super chat. But I very well might make this a video. The first thing that comes to mind, DJ, is and this is, I'm gonna say this because nobody's gonna expect me to say this, I don't think. The trope of, we had a pretty solid first season and nothing else to say, but we stayed on for 8 years.
It's so sad that that's a trope.
It happened over and over again.
Oh, man. Well, he has another one.
Okay, cool.
Logan Dodd. This one's a $4.99.
Oh, thanks, Logan Dodd. He said feel free to keep it for a video. I like that one. That's very likely to be the video.
Sweet. He says which is worse, CW's Powerpuff reboot or this Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey movie?
I mean, like I always say with things, I don't want to review things before I've seen them, so I don't know because they're not out. So we can't. I can't give you any kind of a comparison contrast, but just conceptually and from, it's really funny. These are in the same place, right? Where like I know a premise and I've seen screenshots. I guess we know more about Powerpuff because that actually had a pilot that was shot that we've not seen. Yeah. But as far as just which one bothers me more, I guess for me personally, I have to say Powerpuff Girls, but just barely. I mean, yeah, the Winnie the Pooh thing is I think almost objectively worse.
It's further. It's taking it to the full extreme. It's so unnecessary.
I was getting the weeds with a thing like this because Powerpuff. That thing is just worse in concept. But the Powerpuff thing for me is worse in a way, or bothers me more, I guess, just because it's official. It's owned by Warner Brothers. They're going to put it out as a real thing that somebody's actually going to watch. And that other thing is this little underground thing that looks like it's made for $5.50 that might not get any traction. So I don't know. The details change it a little bit for me. But if I wasn't thinking about who was making it and I was just looking at, if you just throw me two concepts, let's do live action Powerpuff Girls that's real cynical and they're emo girls that act like teenagers but they're grown up now, and et cetera, all the stupid crap that was going on with that, versus Winnie the Pooh is hacking people up. I guess it's Winnie the Pooh is hacking people up.
Oh, let's do that show. Let's do Shark Tank where people in the comments just pitch us horrible ideas for movies.
Man, can we do a whole show for that?
Can we? That sounds amazing.
Write that down too. That's a great idea. That's not a question we're turning into a show. I just want to do that for a Captain Logan show. The pitch us. So we should do a show where this would be great because I can be totally full of myself and I might actually be able to get away with it, DJ. So I'm gonna have like this giant ego, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have a whole show where people pitch us ideas, and I'm gonna greenlight them or I'm gonna take them out in the back and shoot them. And, of course, I have no actual power, and I can't actually make any of these things happen, but I think it might be kind of fun to see what projects, if, like, we pretend like I'm an executive.
Yeah, we gotta wear suits again for that show.
Yes, and I get to greenlight things, or,
Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey comes up, I'm out. I'm out at the opening thesis.
See, you could be an executive also, but I feel like, but the problem is there'd be two of us, so if we had ties, we'd almost need like a third executive. So I think either I have to do it all myself and I'm just the executive, and if you like a thing, maybe you could like, push it hard at me, or we could bring a third person on and have 3 executives.
That would be fun. If only we knew other people.
Dude, that might be next week's show. I love that so much.
Well, we could have Brandon.
We're gonna do the. See, Brandon would be great because he doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
So people would pitch him stuff, and I think the way we should do it too is we should say that like intellectual property is not an object, is not an issue. We basically are executives that work for everybody, or we just keep changing houses every time somebody pitches us something. Because I don't think this would be any fun if it was all... Because people are going to want to pitch us, like, ridiculous fanfic things, and I actually think it would be fun to hear those. Don't you? Like, I don't think it should just be, you have to pitch us completely original content. Nobody's going to want to watch that.
Oh, yeah. When you're watching America's Got Talent, you gotta have like the guy who just comes out and dances in his underwear. He's not gonna get through, but it's just you gotta have some of the fun ones.
So I didn't read enough about the premise of that Winnie the Pooh thing. Logan Dodd says, I mean seriously, Piglet and Winnie the Pooh are hunting people because Chris Robbins stopped feeding them.
They're stuffed animals. What? They don't need to eat. What is happening? Ah. See, that one makes me more mad.
Look, it's called a reimagining, DJ.
Because that one makes me more mad. I mean, I have much more connection with Winnie the Pooh than I do with Powerpuff Girls anyway, but because it's emblematic of what is going to happen now that it's in public domain. It's just like,
I'm worried about the precedent it
sets. Crap.
I don't care about the precedent the CW thing sets, because it's CW. Like, that, they're going to get, like, I don't know, 300,000 people a week are going to watch that. I mean, they're going to get, like... I don't know, less than a sixth of the viewership of like epic rap battles of history.
Yeah. But this is what's gonna happen. Public domain, like, that's scary.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It's gonna be weird.
You guys need to stop throwing news at us that makes us want to kill ourselves.
Gosh, this has been such a depressing show.
All right, what else?
Well, here we go. Thomas Lowe 86.
Yeah, Thomas Lowe. Did we already do that?
Maybe.
I think we already did that. Okay, very good.
Have you made peace with criticism people made on your Dark Knight Rises opinion? Nobody's still torn up about it. How many years has it been? Whew. 10 years.
So my deal with that wasn't that people disagreed with things I was saying on that movie and that people liked that movie and I didn't. I was confused because I felt like I must be not seeing something other people were seeing in that. I felt like people were ignoring just, basic issues of internal logic, and like my suspense was not, my belief... Why can't I talk right now? My suspension of disbelief was not suspended. But I couldn't figure out why a lot of other people seem to have been. No, but the real issue I had was that we had a few commenters that I felt like weren't giving me the benefit of the doubt and were trying to make it about something personal. And we're trying to like use my opinion to somehow like discredit me, and and that hurt my feelings. And it was really the first time that had happened. And then I learned that if you have a following, people are just going to do that to you, and you got to let go and live with that. But
yeah.
But no, it sucked because I hadn't really dealt with that before. I was still pretty green. I was 3 years in. But in the grand scheme, I've been doing this for well over a decade now. So I mean, like it was still a little new, and I wasn't used to that kind of criticism. And it wasn't constructive, is the point I'm making. It was people going, "This movie is." I've said this before. This movie is brilliant because Christopher Nolan made it, and he makes brilliant movies. Therefore, something's wrong with you because you don't think it's brilliant. And that bothered me because that's not critical. That's not using your brain. And if you take that to its furthest extent, that's kind of messed up. That like we define we say because people have liked a creator's work before, now you can't criticize anything he does, and everything he does is great, and like by definition it's good. Turn off your brain, stop thinking about it. I just couldn't deal with that. That really bothered me. And then people would, and folks have said this about other things too. We've been spending too much tonight talking about my YouTube comments, but whatever. But I've gotten this with other things, but I think I got it with this too, where just weird, outlandish claims like, you went into this movie wanting to hate it. It's freaking Nolan's Batman. Like, Begins is my favorite. What?
What? He loves Batman.
Yeah, just looking for like any reason to just assume that I had it out for the thing.
I think that's just all them justifying it in their own head because they have experience. They have to make it make sense. It doesn't make sense that I love this and he hates it. Well, let me come up with some conspiracy theory.
Well, and I'm sympathetic to that to some degree because it kind of sucks when somebody that you like and appreciate and kind of trust in this space doesn't think the way you do about it, because then you might start, and people get insecure about this. Oh man, there must be something wrong with me because I think it's great and I think it's brilliant and here's all my reasons for it. And what if he's right? Like, I don't want that to be to be
yeah, because when you absolutely love something, you don't want to not like it. Like, I don't want, like, there's some times where like I don't want to start thinking about this because I don't
want it to ruin my. Yeah, I've had that with things recently.
Yeah. I want to keep that experience I had, and I don't want to change.
I had something else I was going to say about that, but let's move on. Go ahead.
All right, Odd Man Out Inc. Aw, sorry. Hope you're doing well. $4.99.
That's Korean.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Nice. Just trying to shake things up and confuse the moderator. Where would you be now if Geekvolution never happened?
I'd be writing books nobody'd be reading.
Be back at the morgue.
I didn't work at a morgue. Morgues and mortuaries are different things.
Sorry. Oh, I'm such a plebe.
I'd be at a morgue instead of a mortuary. That's what I'd be doing. No, I had already left there before I started the channel, so I wouldn't be doing that. No, obviously, I have no idea for sure. I'm sure I would be trying to do something in a creative space.
You'd have 10 kids.
What? I probably would still be doing the stay-at-home dad thing, as opposed to trying to work full time at the same time as my wife, because we always wanted one of us to stay home. But I'm sure I would be trying to make some kind of at-home thing independently happen for myself. I always wanted to work for myself. I'm sure I would be writing a lot and trying to get books published, and then if that never took off, I'd probably be teaching in some capacity, because I've thought about trying to make that happen even while I'm doing this, and I just don't have the time. So I've always thought of that as a potential second career, if for some reason I ever quit doing this, or if I had enough time to maybe scale this back a little bit, but keep doing it, and then that as well, like maybe after my kids are out of school or something, but not sure.
Interesting questions. Lots of questions about you. It's like your Ebenezer Scrooge tonight.
It really does feel that way.
Real introspective.
Yeah. Does that make Kareem the ghost of Christmas past? He's the ghost of Christmas what if?
Yeah, Christmas yet to come.
Well, not really, because he's rewriting my history, so it'd be like...
That's true.
No, it's more Ghost of Christmas Past, because Ghost of Christmas Past was like... it doesn't give you an alternate future or an alternate present, but does say, like, maybe you should have ran after the girl that broke up with you because you cared more about... You seem to care more about money than you did her.
It's more George Bailey. It's more It's a Wonderful Life.
Yes.
Geek pollution gets removed, and then you get to see what the world's like without it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Checkers the Inventor back again. He's on this thing tonight. He wants to know, is The Dark Knight Rises...
Oh, man.
...objectively good?
Is The Dark Knight Rises objectively good?
Yes.
No.
Earlier he asked about... We talked about how things could technically be objectively good and still not work for you, and... So
no, a lot of my hangups with that movie is because I think it's objectively not good as far as the construction of the narrative goes, and in how kind of self-important, heavy-handed some of its ideas are. Objective is a dangerous word that I'm not saying Checkers did this, but I think can be easily weaponized. So I worry about. I'm always careful with that word because sometimes I think it's difficult to argue for a thing is objective even if you think it is with a person that just isn't going to be with you on it. You know what I mean? It's like I don't want to get in the weeds with that. I don't want to get in a fight with people over the semantics of that. When I say objectively that's not a good movie or a great movie or whatever, because I don't know. That's it. God, Checkers, why are we back on this? That is a...
You didn't pick my question. We're going to bring it back up and make you go right back in.
Good itself is a subjective notion, right? So if we're saying... Let's get rid of the word good, and let's just talk about a thing that narratively works or doesn't. There are things that are not explained in that movie where there's not the connective tissue to make point A go to point B, and I think that is kind of objective. There's motivation issues. I don't want to get all back in, again, the weeds with this movie, but I'll just give you one example, and I've complained about this forever, and I think a lot of the reason that I've always been so on about it is because not a lot of other people talk about it, and it just drove me insane in the theater. When Bruce Wayne is... or I guess I should just say when the whole world is given this kind of ultimatum of if anybody steps foot in Gotham, Bane will blow it up. And then Bruce just goes there and is just walking around where people can see him. That's objectively a narrative issue. It's like he's read the script and he knows that Bane is not going to do what he said he might. If I'm him, I'd be a lot more careful about that. When he's walking around where people can see him, when he meets Catwoman again. But he makes it very clear that he's there when he lights up a building with a bat symbol in fire. He's saying, "Hey, look, Bane, I'm here." Bane said if anyone comes in, he will blow up Gotham. And that seems way too risky. And so if the character had decided to do that and somehow had a really good sense that Bane was bluffing or wasn't going to do that, fine, there's no discussion about it. That's why it doesn't work. And there has to be.
Yeah, and you just had a ton of things like that with that movie. That's just one example.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that so people don't start attacking that one thing and give you giving you reasons for why that might work, because there's a bunch of stuff like that. It's not just that one thing that threw them off.
Dagon Spear says, but people had already broken into Gotham. Had they? But even if so, like, I'm not even totally sure what he's talking about, and, you know, I'm not doing a review of this movie right now. It's not like I just watched it last night. But even if they had, does Batman know that, and still, why would he take that risk? I never understood that. Soldiers broke into Gotham before.
Soldiers? Like, army people?
Yeah, did they? I'm actually not sure what we're talking about, but
I don't know. I saw that movie once in theaters.
Okay, but again, does Batman know that? And still, even
in a hole.
Even if you're right, what is Batman's logic for doing that? Like, is he going? Because like, and this is what will happen is folks will give you like a small detail like that, saying, "See, there's an explanation," but the movie doesn't talk about it, and it makes the character's motivation seem confused or non-existent. So I need to know if that's why Batman did it. If he's going, okay, well, some other people have come in here and Bane didn't blow it up, so clearly he's not going to. There's no discussion about it. Like, that conversation never happens. It seems like really sloppy writing to me. Okay, I didn't remember the whole soldier sneaking into the bridge thing, or into Gotham thing, but this might be the like hill I die on, DJ. Like, just something about that never set well with me. Like, because people are saying like he had the TV in the hole, so I guess he knew about it from that.
But then why have that scene where Bane says he's going to do it if he's just not going to do it?
Yeah.
That's a lot of
There's kind of problems that compound
people
and
can
again, this is one example. There's other stuff I could bring up that I'm not going to because I don't want to just get back into this again. But
that's the thing I have a lot with stuff like this is where people can come up with a reason that logically makes sense, but then like, but why? Why you shouldn't have to come up with all these reasons. Why is it there in the first place? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Everything should be in a film for a reason, and it should all come together.
Okay, well, we got 20 minutes left if we take this all the way to 2 hours, and I can't go any later than that tonight. Actually, I was hoping not to go past 9, but we started late. So, let's go ahead and knock out the super chats. And,
all right, we got one more.
Okay, cool. What?
John Ty.
Hello again, John. I'm not going to applaud for you again because I already did that.
Yeah, you got 2 already. This is your third time. It's old. It's like your third child. You don't care about it.
Yeah.
Do agree with the notion that the Marvel Universe in the comics are all jerks, and the DC characters in the comics are all humble and kind. I like how he reframed at the beginning this time, where he's asking you if you agree with it.
With the notion, yeah.
He took notes. He took notes on your criticism.
Thanks, John. So I'm going to go ahead real quick and read this the way he probably originally intended to write it, which is, how come the Marvel characters are all jerks and the DC characters are all humble and kind?
I think what it is more with him is he hears this kind of notion said a lot in chat rooms or comments, and he's bringing it to you to see your opinion on it.
Yeah, because a lot of John's questions seem to come from like experiences he's had online that he's maybe befuddled by, or
yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's real, broad and oversimplified, certainly. One thing to note, of course, is that in the modern day, there's not all that much of a difference between Marvel and DC characters, because DC has had a period where, whether they're still in it or not, is kind of arguable, I guess, but where and are we talking comics, are we talking movies, but just, in general, and especially in comics, DC has been in a place for a long time where they kind of just want to be Marvel, and Marvel, I don't want to say is completely flipped from that. Like, they kind of have more or less remained Marvel, but we've talked a lot about how comic superheroes continue to want to be deconstructed in comic stories, and we do a lot of, what if this happened in the real world, and we're trying to be relatable in both DC and Marvel more than we're trying to have characters to live up to, again, arguably. So it's hard to say now, if there's any truth to that at all. But going back to, say, Silver, Bronze Age, just after that, I guess there's a little bit of truth to that, maybe. Not that, like, all the Marvel heroes were, like, horrible people, but just that Marvel... I'm hesitating because I feel like I've said this 100,000 times, but, like, the Marvel heroes in the early days with Stan Lee were invented to be more flawed in the first place. The idea was, these are real people, they happen to have superpowers, and they're filling the same roles that the DC heroes do, but it's more like a novel, it's more like the real world than comics have been before. And with DC, it was icons and godlike characters, and so if they're not allowed to be flawed because they're supposed to be the example, then, well, yes, of course, they're going to be the kind, do no wrong heroes, because that's what they were invented to be. And the Marvel characters, by comparison, are going to look like horrible jerk faces because Stan Lee's philosophy with Spider-Man, and then, everybody else by extension, was if you got superpowers, would you, A, go do nice things for everyone, or B, try to make your life as perfect as you could make it? And he said most people would do the less altruistic thing, which is probably true. And so it rang true, and that's why that stuff was popular. So I guess the answer to the question is, in its purest form, yes, that's true, kind of, but I don't think it's a negative thing. I don't think it's bad. I think they were after different things.
Yeah, I think the phrasing is just weird. I've always heard it as Marvel's flawed characters, DC is idealistic characters, not jerks versus kind.
Yeah, exactly. But it's funny that you say that, because I think my wife has always sort of seen it that way to some degree, where, like, she's always been a little bit more of a DC person than a Marvel person.
Yeah,
because
I don't care about all your personal problems. I just want to watch people save cats out of trees.
Yep, that's it. That's exactly right. Yeah. And so you're unsympathetic because I don't want to watch people do stupid things, even if they learn from them. I can just leave my house and see that.
Yeah, I had that for a long time.
Did
not
you really?
That specifically, but I didn't want to see movies that were just kind of... This is why I was such a... I'm different now, but I was such a sci-fi fantasy guy. I was like, I don't want to see movies about normal things. I have about how hard life is. Like, I could just stay home and not watch a movie and experience that. I want to see something more fantastical and interesting. I've since changed my tune on that, but that's how I was in high school. But that is the last super chat. I've got a really interestingly worded just in the normal chat from Nicholas, and he's written it like 6 times. So I'd like to ask it to you.
Okay, we'll go ahead and do that, but I don't want to set a precedent for if you spam the comments, we'll answer your question. So, Nicholas, please, next time, put your question in one time and just say @DJ Martinez. He will see it. He copies them all down.
That's why I actually laughed, because I saw it the first time you wrote it while you were talking, and I was like, let me go to this one. And then I looked and it was there a bunch more. I didn't know he had done that until I started talking about it. But do you think that the Disney Plus Marvel shows are just Trojan horse content? What a fascinating phrase.
Disney... Okay, so when he said... Because I've never heard it phrased like this, so I want to make sure that we're on the same page. So when you say... And sorry if I'm catching up to a thing that's just a normal phrase now that people have been hearing.
I've never heard it either.
I've never heard this. So when you say Trojan horse content, do you mean content for the sake of content where people assume that they'll click on it and enjoy it and get something out of it, but it's really there just to fill time and hope that you'll give it clicks? The Trojan horse being a thing that was supposed to be filled with gifts, but was actually filled with soldiers that kill you.
If that's what he means, like, literally.
Well, of course.
The Marvel Plus shows, it's like the villain from Incredibles 2. They're gonna hypnotize us and try to kill us all.
No, I think it's more complicated than that. I think there are lots of people working on their shows that are giving it their all and trying to make great content. I think that there are a lot of factors holding those shows back. I think that there are several of them, if not all of them. I think with Star Wars in particular, with like the Boba Fett show, there are mandates from on high with Disney that are kind of tying creators' hands behind their backs and not allowing them to make exactly what it is that they're wanting to. And I think that they're just suffering from some of the same problems the movies do. Look, these are TV shows essentially made by a movie studio. This is a thing that we haven't talked about enough, and unless I'm barking up the wrong tree and not understanding this correctly, this is just a thought that I just had in the moment. So maybe I'm a crazy person, but hear me out for a second. There is usually a big difference between movies and television, of course. And there's movie studios and TV networks have different MOs, and they have different concerns, and the way they sell their material is different. One is about box office, or at least traditionally. One is about ad revenue, at least traditionally. Now, the motives, or I shouldn't say motives, the methods for getting paid between things that are made more like a TV show or more like a movie are becoming the same thing. It's streaming. You're getting revenue in the same kind of way. And so in that way, the content has got to start looking similar in the way it's being sold to people. But also, with this in particular, I never had that thought before. With this in particular, Marvel and Star Wars, both owned by Disney, both now with the same people being able to make major creative decisions on both sides, on the movie side and the TV side. So they're being held to some of the same things. Some of the same problems that the big machine is creating with the movies has to be happening with the TV shows, with both Star Wars and Marvel. And that can be compounded by the fact that now you have to make a lot more of it in sometimes as long as or short as you're getting for making a movie, and maybe shorter. I don't know. And so I don't think it's fair to say Trojan horse. I just think that there's things holding them back, and I think it's some of the same things that are holding the movies back.
Yeah. That could be a whole video discussion too. That's really interesting. Checkers really stirring the pot.
Dang it, Checkers!
He said, top 5 bad Dark Knight Rises tropes. Go.
Man, this might be the first super chat I just straight up don't answer.
I love that he keeps referencing other super chats.
Thanks for your $2 super chat, Checkers. No, I can't do that fast enough, and I don't even know what tropes mean in that. I'll lay out, and I'm not gonna make that whole video, by the way. That would get a lot of views, but I don't want to be that guy. I'm gonna be really controversial just for the views. So because I don't know how to separate tropes from just things I find problematic or dumb. Right, but like there's things like Bruce has a magic knee brace.
Yeah, all that mystical like kung fu stuff. That was one of my favorite videos Eric ever did. Was the Dark Knight Rises review, where mystical kung fu BS was a phrase he kept using in that review. And it cracked me up.
In a world where we're too grounded for the Lazarus Pit, but you can get your back fixed in like 30 days or less, and you've got this magic knee brace.
But the knee brace is so offensive because you didn't even have to bring that up.
Yeah.
Why bring up that his knee is so completely broken and he has no cartilage? And
yeah, I know. It's like, look how realistic this is, and then here's this really unrealistic way of dealing with it. So yeah, you have that, and the thing I mentioned earlier that's always bugged me about Bruce not worried at all that Bane might go through with his plans. And then, of course, there's Gordon sending the entire police force underground so that nobody can be there to help Batman at the end.
The henchman being completely nerfed because he's just the villain being completely nerfed because he's just a henchman to the... You've talked about that before.
Yeah. Bane's whole kind of cult of followers who will follow him to their death and to the ends of the earth, but the whole thing's not really about an ideology, so I don't know what they think they're following. That was always a thing I was kind of confused about. I mean, like, who even are these? Because we're told they're mercenaries, but then the only reason they would follow him like that is if it was a religious kind of thing.
Yeah,
so, like,
mercenaries
are they leftovers from the original League of Shadows? Like, I guess they must be, but that's not how they're discussed. How does Bane eat? It's just a funny one to me that I've always liked. He's got this thing on his face he can't take off. I'm not sure. Is it intravenous? I don't know.
Yeah, and that's one thing where people will be like, "Come on, it's intravenous, obviously," and they'll call you like an idiot. But it's not in the movie. Like, it's just a funny little.
No,
thing.
But that's not a thing that doesn't ruin the movie for me.
No, that's
more of a movie trope kind of thing, actually. But it's fun to make fun. It's fun to complain about. I think it's amusing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think you named 5. I think you did it.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
I didn't want to, though. I did that begrudgingly. Oh, did you just say that? We're talking about Dark Knight Rises. He says, dig in a hole. Come on now.
Sorry. I've seen the movie one time.
Oh, also, no, I'm sorry. I'll give you one more, even if it is 6. It's Batman, so when he finally is able to make the jump, which that whole scene always read really sappy and corny to me, but he's going to make the jump, right? And then Bat's got to fly out of the wall.
He makes it because he does, like, he needs the fear. Yeah, that's really cheesy. I felt that in the theater.
Yeah.
A lot of that, if it was a movie on its own, it wouldn't be as egregious, right? It's just because we have these 2 first movies that we've seen so much that we don't feel like it fits with.
Okay, I've got to get going, guys.
The last one I got.
All right, cool.
Sixth Ranger. It is a yes or no. Should Justin Lin direct another Star Trek movie?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a thing that years ago I never thought I would say. The Fast and the Furious guy directs a really solid Star Trek movie and actually integrates the action really well with the story. I thought he was wonderful for that material. I thought he really got what Star Trek as a theatrical experience can be. And yeah, I'd love to see him come back. Absolutely. And because he made such a good movie, if the next one, if he would direct the next one and it sucked, I wouldn't blame him. It would have to just be that script, because I know he can do that job.
I think he just walked from the franchise, the Fast and Furious franchise. I think that's what I heard. I don't know. So maybe he's available.
I just think it's difficult for anybody to do the same thing 19 times and want to keep doing it. Like,
I don't know how many of those he's done, but yeah.
Thomas Lowe says, jump without the rope. Is this going to become the new swimming on camera? We want you to do that on camera.
That'd be amazing. Hey, episode 300. It could happen. Jump out of a pit without a rope.
Okay, well, are we done?
We're done. We've done it. We've done a show.
Well, folks, that was great. Thanks a lot for all of the thoughtful and insightful questions. And I felt put through the ringer tonight. This one was tougher for me than usual. So thank you guys for challenging me a little bit. I enjoyed that. It was...
That's what you get for making it a competition, sir.
Intellectually stimulating. Yeah, why did I do that? And then the one I picked was not a super deep, insightful question, but one that will just be really fun.
Which is always fun.
You know, honestly, I was just trying to use you guys to try to get a video that would get me lots of views. That's what I was after.
That's all it ever is.
No, I really wasn't. I figured it would be something that I would just want to like ramble and prattle on about forever that nobody would want to watch. And then I got 5 CW tropes, and I was like, I'm doing that. And probably because I knew that in the moment I couldn't come up with the really juicy ones, like, because I haven't watched that stuff in a long time.
Some prep for that.
Yeah, I will. I'll have to really noodle it. I mean, I'm not gonna prep like actually watching the shows.
Oh,
like, not doing that. But
I mean, you could do your wheel show with Austin. Maybe get some.
Oh, that's true. We haven't done that in a long time. We've got these mini marathons. That seems to be going better. So
tune in for Geekfaloo Shark Tank next week.
That might be next week. Thanks for reminding me. We are going to do that, if not next week, soon, because I think that's a phenomenally fun idea, and hopefully we'll have some takers on that, and some people we'll announce it ahead of time, and people can develop their pitches. And I don't know that we'll actually give out prizes or anything.
That would be I don't think we'll ever do this, so don't get your hopes up. But that would be a fun one to do a call-in show, and so they can actually pitch us with their mouth, and then as soon as we're out, we just hang up on them.
Yeah, we could think about doing it that way.
But we'd have to somehow have all three of us be able
Especially if they didn't need to be able to hear you.
Yeah. It would be cool if that would be insane. But somehow have it rigged up where we could all three hang up. It'd be like America's Got Talent, where if two of the judges give him an X, then they're hung up on.
Oh, see, I thought you just meant, like, they come in, they pitch, we say bye, and then we discuss it so that they don't have to hear you. Like, that would actually work.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun, too.
Well, anyway.
Give them a little more persuasiveness.
We'll figure out how that will work. I think we'll probably just do it via comments and super chats, but
yeah, that'd be better.
Well, guys, we sure hope that you had a good time. We certainly did, and I'll be back again tomorrow night with a blind commentary on Godzilla versus what was it, Monster Zero. And because I've never seen that movie, and I'm excited to finally see it because people tell me it's nuts and fun, so that will be enjoyable. And then Superhero Rewind unscripted Sunday night at 10 Central. I hope you'll join us for fun this weekend. There could be a game stream in there too if I feel like doing that again. I did that last Saturday. That was a lot of fun. And so anyway, lots more stuff coming your way. I was Captain Logan. We had DJ Martinez as always, and DJ, thanks a lot for everything you do for us, buddy.
Always a pleasure.